Now, let's take you live to the weekly briefing by the Information Ministry as the Tourism Minister launches SME and Site Development Grant Scheme. The Sector Minister, Barbara Otinjesi, is addressing the meeting now.
The human resource capacity of the industry players, and very soon we will outdoor the plans for the establishment of state-of-the-art tourism and hospitality training institutions in selected regions of the country. Also, the beneficiaries to be supported under the grant scheme comprise mainly Ghanaian indigenous businesses in the tourism value chain, including micro businesses that employ between 1 to 5 persons, small businesses that employ between 6 to 30 persons, and medium enterprises that employ between 31 to 100 people. In addition to the above, the project's intervention and also been put in place with Mr. Kwame Minta, a business transformation and IT expert, as the chairperson. Honorable Senior Minister, I wish to thank the World Bank team for their support in going through the processes to ensure efficient disbursement of the fund. I would also like to express gratitude to the Honorable Minister for Finance, the Director of External Resource Mobilization Department of the Ministry of Finance and her team, the Grants Management Firm, and my team at the Project Coordinating Unit of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture for their dedication and commitment to the project. It is my fervent hope that beneficiaries shall utilize funds for the intended purposes to enable us achieve the project's developmental objectives. May I reiterate that the Ministry will undertake vigorous monitoring and evaluation exercise to ensure that the funds are used to develop the country's tourism and hospitality industry. Thank you, and may God bless us all. Thank you, Honorable Minister for Tourism, Honorable Barbara Otinjesi. Shall we call on the grants management firm to give us their presentation, please? Thank you.
Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
The Honorable Senior Minister, Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, the Minister for Information, all ministers here, ladies and gentlemen. We have a singular honor to be associated with this all-important government project. A project to assist and help businesses in tourism and leisure industry to scale up and ensure that we have a very vibrant tourism industry. I won't bore you with the background, as the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture has already given us enough information about that. So I'll quickly take you through a number of things that, as a prospective applicant to benefit from this process, you would have to do and what you should have to be able to put in an application. So aware of the background and what we'll be speaking about, I won't go much into the background introduction, as I did say, because the Honorable has spoken about it. But I will tell you about the eligibility criteria, what we look out for, or what the governments look out for any business or individual who seek to participate and benefit from this process. We would also talk about the various grants categories we have that you can benefit from. And lastly, we will talk about the application and selection process that you need to be aware of. So let me go straight into the grant categories. The controller of the slides, please skip the background introduction. We've had enough of that from the presentation by the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture. So there are three main categories of the grants that a prospective business operating in the tourism industry can benefit from. The very first one is what we call the site upgrade grant. The site upgrade grant. And that is reserved or meant for non-publicly owned tourist sites to improve on their aesthetics and appearance. So you can put in an application to upgrade the current site so that it becomes more lively and more appealing for tourists to be able to access the place. The second one is what we call the SE grant, and it's meant for small, medium enterprises operating within the tourism industry to help them avoid or deal with some of the constraints they are facing in terms of their operations, in order for them to scale and grow so that the entire tourism industry will thrive and grow as well. The last one is what we term as the capacity building grants. Now, with respect to the capacity building grants, the target is emerging new businesses or individuals who have ideas in the tourism industry but do not necessarily have the capacity to execute this idea. Now, once you put in an application, together with the government would help you provide some funding to build your capacity and build up to scratch so that you are able to manage the business idea that you have actually conceived. So in terms of categories, these three are the ones any prospective applicant is able to benefit from. Now let's go straight into the eligibility. What makes a person qualify to benefit from these three categories that we've mentioned? There are two types of categories, eligibility, sorry. One, businesses, and two, individuals. Obviously, we want to support businesses which are actually doing the right things. So if you are a business and you are not registered, then I'm sorry, you might not be able to access the funds. So you must necessarily be registered with the Registrar General's Department. Two, this is dealing with businesses in the tourism and leisure industry. So you must be registered with any of the associations within the tourism industry as well. Then the ownership of the business must be Ghanaian. So we are looking for majority Ghanaian ownership. Let's not forget that this is a Ghanaian project. This is a credit sourced by the government of Ghana. And so you cannot give the money to any other person but Ghanaians. So majority Ghanaian ownership. You must have physical presence in Ghana. So you must be physically located in Ghana to be able to access the funds. You must demonstrate traction and profitability. So you must demonstrate that the business proposal you are putting in is able to generate profit, because when you generate profit, you can expand and benefit other people in terms of job creation and all of that. And that is what we essentially as a country want to do. Then for individuals who basically benefit from the capacity building, again, these people or these individuals must be Ghanaians. They should necessarily register with any of the associations within the tourism industry. They must, I've already indicated, they must be Ghanaian to register with any of the associations within the tourism industry. And they should have been trained or identified with any accredited training institution for which we would provide the facility or the funding or the money for them to be training. So these are two categories of eligibility we are talking about. The question is, if you assess yourself today and you fall in any of these categories, what do I do? And that takes us to the application process. It's very critical and important that we take note of all of that. So it is in two stages. The first stage is what we call expression of interest. There are a lot of businesses spread across the country, and we need people or individuals constrained to express interest in benefiting from that scheme. Once you express interest, it will be reviewed against the set criteria to be sure that, yes, you are a business which is owned by a Ghanaian, you are a resident in Ghana, and all the eligibility things we spoke about. Once we tick that, then we send you a detailed application form which has a number of elements and questions in there. You complete that and attach your proposal. The proposal will be reviewed against certain criteria or benchmarks. Let's not forget, a lot of people will put in application and would want to benefit from the system. And as genuine people put in application, there are people who would also want to take advantage of the system. And so all of that is embedded in the review process. Once the review of the proposals and detailed application is completed, communication is sent out to both successful and unsuccessful applicants to let them know you've gone past the proposal stage. We will now go ahead to do due diligence, if any. If we find certain things in the application which call for additional work to be done, that will be done during the due diligence stage, and grant winners who would have successfully gone to the due diligence stage would be announced. Recommendation will be made to the grant committee, which the Honorable Minister alluded to earlier, and the final approval will come to them. We will go ahead, execute or sign grant agreements with successful applicants or the grant winners, and then commence disbursements. Again, we are mindful of the tight timeline associated with this and the fact that businesses, SMEs, are really struggling. So we are working very fast to ensure that we disburse as soon as possible so that the businesses which are struggling would have opportunity to boost their cash flow and take them to the next level. So essentially, these are the steps and the basis you need to go through, what you need to know in order to participate in the process. As we speak today, the link to the expression of interest is up and running. So you can put in an application immediately after the launch by the Honorable Senior Minister. It will come straight to us. These are the links. You'll find them on the website of both the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, as well as the Ghana Tourist Authority. At this point, we would want to thank you so much for your audience and expect a lot more in terms of communication on this from us. Social media, WhatsApp messages, coming different platforms to give a lot more people the opportunity to apply and benefit from the system. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Honorable Senior Minister, Honorable Tourism Minister, colleagues and friends in the media, permit me to tweak the program outline a little bit. I got in an indication whilst I was up there that a couple of us did have some questions, and of course there's Q&A on the program. But immediately after launching it, that is it for the program. So we'll take every question that anybody may have now, so that every issue is addressed, and then once we launch it, that will be it. At launching and when the program is over, that is when our friends in the media who only operate in the Tree language will also have their fair share with the Tree interviews. But for now, it's question time. Yes, ma'am. Please come up. The microphone will be right here. So your name, your media house, and then your question, please. I'm not so sure everybody else can hear you. It doesn't look like the microphone is working. If you can get it to so that everybody can hear her, so we get duplicate questions.
And so that is our live coverage of the launch of the $9 million facility provided by the World Bank to support Ghana's tourism industry. And we've heard from the Minister for Tourism, Barbara Tingyasi, give us some more detail on this, the background to this project. And also we've been told about the eligibility criteria and how to apply if you are a business interested in this. Very soon, we'll have the Minister launch this properly. But first, we have colleagues who are asking some key questions about the project, and I'm sure that we're going to get some more flowing from the question and answer session. But if you are interested, you're a business, first of all, you must be registered with the Registrar General. You must also register with any of the associations as far as tourism is concerned. And I know there are a number of them, as well as the Ghana Tourism Association as well. Then you also must be fiscally present in Ghana. But even before that, you must be a Ghanaian business or a business with a huge share belonging to a Ghanaian. And that is very much important because we're looking to grow the Ghanaian tourism industry. And so that is a very key criteria as far as the package is concerned if you want to apply. And you must also demonstrate profitability. Your business must be able to rake in some more revenue to employ more people so the tourism industry can grow. And so these are some key indicators if you want to apply for the facility. That is if you're a business. If you're an individual, you must make sure, first of all, you must be a Ghanaian, and then you must have been trained by an accredited institution here in Ghana. That will make you qualify. Then you can also present your proposal to the committee that will be looking at this, and then they can have a look. You can go ahead to apply, and if you qualify, the funds will be released to you. Remember, this is $9 million. A majority of that, money, a good part of it, will go specifically into improving infrastructure at various tourist sites, both public and private, being managed, by Ghanaians, and so. That is it, but you must express interest and you must let them know. We'll have the minister launch this in a few minutes, but we'll return to the Information Ministry and hear the responses to the questions that are being posed by colleague journalists who are there about this facility. Remember that COVID-19 has affected every aspect of the country's economy, and tourism is also included. Let's go live now to the Information Ministry.
Hello, Bobi Osei from City FM. So the media budget review will be read next month. Just checking, the tourism sector has been hit really hard. Are you expecting any specific support from, government? In the main budget, you were allocated.
This is actually towards.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So this scheme is a great scheme, but are you expecting more in the media budget review to support your ministry? Since been, the sector has been hit really hard.
Are we done with the questions? There won't be a round two. So if we have exhausted it, then I can call the minister or any member of her team or someone from the grant management firm to answer the question. Okay, thank you. There was a question in respect of the amounts of the grant scheme, and there is $9 million available for disbursement under grant scheme for all the components under it. So there is $9 million to be disbursed. And in respect of the last question, government has already announced various supports to businesses generally. There is the SME support, which was launched recently by His Excellency the President himself, which is a 1 billion support, 600 million plus a matching grant of 400 million. And that is also available to our industry because it's for businesses in the entire country. So if you are a player in the tourism industry, you can also apply to access that fund. Then also, there was announced a 3 billion facility through the banking sector. And I think that our upscale players can also access that 3 billion facility. Then His Excellency the President also has constituted an interministerial committee to look specifically at the tourism industry, because we all know that it's a sector that has been very hard hit by this pandemic. So the committee has also done some work and has come up with a proposal which will be submitted to government for consideration, and something will be done for the industry, especially because of the impact of COVID-19 on the tourism sector. So these are the various levels of support, and today we have launched we are about to launch the grant scheme under the tourism development projects, which the ministry is implementing, which is a World Bank funded project, which we're implementing. So under that project also, there is this 9 million facility, which is available for the industry. And I think that government has to be commended for all the support that is coming to the industry. Thank you. I think the project consultant will take the rest of the questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And with your kind permission, we would like to continue answering the questions. I'm Divine also answering the acting project coordinator for the Tourism Development Project. So just my Honorable Minister said, the total amount involved in the grant is $9 million. Now this $1 million have been broken down into 3 categories. The first category, as was mentioned during the presentation, is $4 million. And then after that, we have our $4 million for the development of the sites. And then the capacity building aspect of the project is the $1 million. So in total, the amount involved is $9 million. The start or the duration. Just like he said in the presentation, right after the Honorable Minister has launched the program, if you go to the website www.motac.gov.gh or visit ghana.com, you can start submitting your expression of interest. Now, the expression of interest, you will have up to the 8th of July to submit it. As the program rolls on, there may be opportunity for us to open it again. But then between now and the 8th of July is the first time that you have the opportunity to put in your expression of interest. A question was also asked whether individuals should satisfy all the 4 requirements. Yes, individuals, SMEs, should satisfy all the requirements. And just like Honorable Minister mentioned, we are working very closely with the grants that the government of Ghana has made available. For instance, we are working very closely with the National Board for Small Scale Industry, which from today will also start investment. So what we want to avoid is dipping into the various grants. So we have a database that we are working with. So criteria is almost the same as that of the National Board for Small Scale Industry. So yes, you need to qualify to have all the documentation. And we've also learned a lot from the grant as well, because we realize that the lower you go, the more you allow yourself for fraudulent documents to be submitted. So meet all the 4 criteria and you wouldn't have any problem. It also gives us the benefit to know the data, the number of businesses within the industry, so that moving forward, it will help us in formulating policies. Now, there was a question, how does it help event industry? Yes, there are various categories within the tourism industry. The tourism industry is like an umbrella. So depending on the proposal that you submit, the grants management team will look at the proposal, and then if you qualify, they will submit it to the grants committee. The grants committee will evaluate, and then based on your qualification or the amount that you are requesting for and it's approved, you will then become a beneficiary. It is the same thing with the capacity building for the film industry as well. As long as it falls within the tourism sector and you have a very good proposal, why not? That is why a grant is being put in place to support businesses to promote tourism in the country. I think the last question was whether the arts are involved. Indeed, arts has always been part of tourism. And just like the film industry, which is also part of the arts industry, put in your expression of interest. We will evaluate it. Put in, meet the criteria. Once you meet the criteria and you qualify, the fund will support you. Thank you very much. Honorable Ministers, with your kind permission, we also have the bank project tax team leader here with us. It's in the person of Mr. Fibuati Ajin. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Your question, I thought that was the very first one she even answered. How many businesses? It depends on the number of businesses that apply for. And they apply, you can't really have a fixed. I'm sorry? There can be a target, and there's a fixed amount. And there are others who are going to apply depending on the amount, the 1,000 minimum. Estimate 1,000 businesses. But I am of the opinion that if they invest in 9 million, and depending on the number of applications they get and the amounts that's being applied for, that can probably even increase the estimated number. You need to come back.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Our attention is drawn to the fact that the 9 million is even an initial amount. So depending on how the grant performs, that amount could even go up. So that is the good news that we wanted to put across. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Now that we need to have exhausted all the questions and we have received all the answers. I told you I'll not go for a second round. I would invite the Honorable Senior Minister, the Honorable Yao Osafo-Maafo, to give us the keynote address and launch it for us.
Honorable Barbara Otinjesi, Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Honorable Deputy Minister for Information, various heads of the tourism industry here gathered, chief directors, member of administration for the tourist industry, members of the distinguished press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Today marks a very important milestone in the history of the country's tourism, arts and culture industry, as we launch the first ever tourism enterprise support program. This is the first time such a scheme is being implemented in the history of this country to support the tourism industry. The grant scheme, among others, aimed at supporting registered individual enterprises and other enterprises operating in the tourism and hospitality sector. I think got the good news that the initial capital of 9 million is just the initial capital, and if you apply and the promotion goes on and the change we all expect in the tourist industry takes place, definitely will be the beginning, and there will be a lot more money put in. Indeed, normally when the World Bank finances a project, it's an initial sum. You expect our donors along the line to buy into it, make it bigger. So I would say that operators of this should make a success out of it and attract a lot more money into this whole enterprise. Honorable Ministers, this support comes at a time that the world is facing an immeasurable global health emergency with a huge, devastating social and economic impact on our societies and our livelihood. Honorable Minister, tourism is uniquely positioned to help the societies and communities to promote and retain growth and stabilize, because tourism has that cross-sector approach, and this helps to influence things in a very indirect manner. Throughout the years, the tourism industry has continuously demonstrated its resilience as a business to overcome environmental problems, because the tourist industry is environmentally generated. Therefore, when there's a problem within the environment, it is the first to act to solve the problem. The sector has achieved this as a result of adequate political support and the recognition governments continue to give to the industry players to ensure that they continue to play their roles in the socio-economic development of the country. Furthermore, the industry plays a key role in leveraging efforts to preserve and promote natural and cultural heritage and has long been at the forefront of creating employment and livelihood, especially for the youth, women, and the employed. Tourism has the advantage of creating employment across backgrounds, across various educational levels, and across gender. And therefore, it's employment generator when we do properly. Honorable Minister, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit travel and tourism hard. If there is any sector that is seriously affected by COVID-19, is the tourist sector. Once you close your borders to flights, how can you talk about external tourism? So the COVID-19 pandemic has really hit tourism and hit it very hard. According to the United Nations World Tourism Organization, small, medium-sized enterprises, which make up around 80% of the tourism sector, are expected to be particularly impacted. This might affect thousands of livelihoods across the country, including vulnerable communities who rely on tourism as a vehicle to spur their development and economic inclusion. And therefore, the industry would benefit from any intervention put up by government to fight the COVID pandemic. So the minister explained all the various interventions the tourist industry more than qualify. And therefore, it's not only this 9 million that we're talking about, but all interventions put in by government, you adequately qualify. None of us gathered here has a clear idea for now how the world will return to the state in which it was before the advent of coronavirus pandemic. Hence, everybody is talking about a new normal. We do not yet know what form this will take, but certainly the world sociology and living conditions will never be the same. The change is come, and it's come for us to adapt to suit it. We are therefore adjust to all the safety rules and protocols. We believe that the devastating effect on tourism, culture, and travels will be minimized, and the industry will regain its rightful place in the economy. If there is any sector that should preach obedience to these protocols, it is the tourism sector. All of these factors, ladies and gentlemen, it's even more imperative that the tourism sector is supported both at this time of the crisis and as we enter the recovery phase of the crisis. The grant being launched today under the Ghana Tourism Development Project with funds from the International Development Agency, IDA, of the World Bank Group, offers us exactly the opportunity and support we require to revitalize the sector and make an impact in the tourism and hospitality sectors. It is my hope, Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, that practitioners will take the opportunity that the grant offers to further improve the tourism industry despite the negative effects of COVID-19. The government under Adodankwa Akufo-Addo, since assumption of office in 2017, has supported Ghana's tourism sector with funds for infrastructure development and related issues. The government securing support for the World Bank to improve tourism infrastructure is yet another demonstration of the government's commitment to improving the tourism arts and culture industry. It is unfortunate that despite these investments, Ghana has not seen a corresponding rise in our tourism earnings or break into top 10 tourism nations in Africa. Africa has seen a rise in its tourism performance, recording about 69 million tourists visit in 2018, making it the second fastest growing region after Asia's Pacific when it comes to tourism. This was a growth of 7% over the 2017 performance. However, despite this impressive growth in 2018 for Africa, Africa's share of the global tourism pie remains small. Only 5% of international tourist arrivals were to African countries. In fact, Africa earned only 1% of 1.7 trillion earnings in that sector. So that the continent Africa, the cradle of civilization, that history of Egypt, that history of Abyssinia, Ethiopia, if you earn 1% tourist growth, it is certainly not enough. We have a lot more to show, to sell. So we're not getting ourselves enough. Africa needs to take a better share of world tourism than it has taken so far. When I saw the figures when the net, I was most disappointed. I thought, with the history of the world and where Africa started with, Africa should be earning far more than 1% of what is available. This is the reason why government is supporting this project to improve on our tourism infrastructure, to attract more visitors like we witnessed during the Year of Return program in 2019. I must congratulate Minister Barbara for the success of Year of Return. We were most impressed with the outcome. Perhaps it would have been a different story but for COVID-19. But nonetheless, let us even use it to create opportunities for development. I am informed that under the project, refurbishment works are currently ongoing, as the minister himself mentioned, in various parts in this country. I think that Ghana, in competition for tourist development, has advantage for most countries. What are the initial attractions of the tourist? Security and safety. The nature of the Ghanaian makes the whole system, the whole country, a tourist attraction center. And we have not marketed it enough. People feel safe in our country. People feel comfortable because people are naturally friendly. And we should sing the song. We should make people feel like coming here to relax, because it is a destination for relaxation. That's what tourism is about. So we need to take a bigger share of it, because the whole country, by our sociology, is a tourist destination. Madam Minister, I think we need to do an aggressive promotion to get Ghana taking a bigger share of that African share. Honorable Ministers, Member Press, ladies and gentlemen, kindly permit me at this point to declare the Ghana Tourist Development Project SME and Marketing Grant Scheme duly launched. I wish all applicants success, and it is starting just after speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Senior Minister. Indeed, the grant scheme has been launched, and We thank each and every one of you for your participation. Your questions indeed did throw more light onto the scheme and educated a whole lot of us on what is possible and what is not possible. At this point, we'll bring this program morning session to a full closure. Later in the day, this is to our friends in the media, we'll have a meet the press. I'm sure you may have seen the publication already. I will keep thanking you for the role you play in ensuring that every credible information reaches the Ghanaian citizen. And would also ask you to help us educate all our Ghanaians who are operating under this tourism sector to take and ensure that.
And you're live here on the Joy News channel. That is our live coverage of the Ghana Development Tourism Project, the launch of that project, which provides some $9 million to the tourism industry, and that is a grant by the World Bank, and we understand this is the initial amounts they're giving us. Depending on the success of this grant, we will be open to some more investments from the World Bank. We've been told how you can apply. Just go onto the website at www.motag.gov.gh, or you can visit visitghana.com. We have all the details there. My name is Ernest Minu. We're back at midday with more news. Stay with us.